evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here at our City Council meeting here in Council Chamber. It's a special joy to have so many Scouts and families and representatives from our Scout Troop number 49 here with us this evening. Welcome, Scouts. In just a little bit, when we officially call the meeting to order, we have the opportunity to recognize 5 Eagle Scouts from Troop 49, and that is such an amazing accomplishment. So we're happy to have you. Thank you for joining us, and once we officially get going, we'll have a chance to do some official recognition together of these Scouts and everything that you've accomplished. So thank you for being here. And then I will say to the Scouts and your families, thank you for joining us. You are welcome to stay for as much of the rest of the meeting as you want. We also will take a brief recess after we do the presentations because we know you have homework and schoolwork and all kinds of things. So if you would like to be able to take some pictures and then go, you're also welcome to do that. Don't feel like you need to stay. So stay as long as you like, leave when you need to. And thanks for being here. I will just go through our agenda before I officially call us to order so that we have a sense of what we have before us tonight and we're all on the same page. First, a thank you to Kim in the BevCam booth for having us streaming live at home so that folks can follow us from wherever you may be this evening. We have, as I mentioned, these resolutions for our Eagle Scouts. We then have a presentation from our city DEIB director, Wangari Fahari. Thank you, Ms. Fahari, for being here. We'll have time for some questions from the council for Ms. Fahari following that presentation. We do have a very brief presentation, and I say very brief just because as members of the council know, and Councillor St. Hilaire, our Chair of Finance and Property, knows best, the mayor is presenting his budget, proposed FY26 budget this evening, and we'll be getting underway with lots of budget conversation in the month ahead, starting this Thursday. And so we won't have a lot of conversation tonight. We will be digging into it this month. Then we have a public hearing posted for 7:45. We have some routine business to take care of. We'll take a break for some subcommittee work. We'll come back and finish it all up. And with that, I'll officially call to order this regular meeting of the Beverly City Council, Monday, June 2nd, 2025, 7:00 p.m. Ms. Kent, will you please call the roll?
Bowen? Here. Crowley? Here. Feldman? Here. Hausman? Here. Rotundo? Here. Spang? Here. St. Hilaire? Here. Sweeney? Here. And Flowers?
Here. Thank you, Ms. Kent. Councillor Hausman, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, Councillor Hausman. I do want to mention in my overview of our agenda, I was remiss in not noting that we also do have 2 residents signed up for our comments, resident comments section, and we will take those as in the order that we can. The public hearing has to be open at 7:45. That would be the only thing that would disrupt the flow. And those 2 folks, I'll say more about how you can sign up to do that if you're interested at future meetings, but we will have 2 speakers. They have up to 3 minutes to address the council. Ms. Kent, thank you. So I will head to the podium. And as I mentioned, we have 5 Eagle Scouts joining us, and congratulations again. I'll invite you one at a time to come up and join me at the podium, so I'll meet you there in a moment. So in the time that I have had the honor and the privilege of serving on the City Council, we have had the opportunity to have Eagle Scouts come before us at meetings and to get to meet you and to hear a little bit about your Eagle projects. And I don't know that we've ever had 5 in one meeting. And so congratulations, not only to each of these Eagle Scouts, but also it strikes me to Troop 49 and all of the adults and the Scout leaders and everyone who's supported you along the way, because it strikes me that the community there really seems to be one where you all are supporting each other towards this goal. And so it's so nice to have all of you here with us. I'm going to call the Scouts up in the order that we have them listed on the agenda. And so there's no particular order to that. So don't try to discern what it means that you're first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. But I would like to, and if I mispronounce your name, please correct me as well. So I'd like to start by inviting Gregory Droman to come on up and join me. Gregory, you can stand right here. Some of the parts of the resolution, I won't read the full resolution for each scout after Gregory, only because some talk through what the process is through scouting. And so there'll be parts that I won't read for everyone, but I'm going to read all of Gregory's resolution now so that folks who aren't as familiar with how your path to Eagle might look can hear that. And then what I will make sure to be doing is reading each scout's component where it talks about the Eagle project that you did, because I know you all worked really hard on a very individual and unique project. So this is a resolution in honor of Gregory Droman upon earning the rank of Eagle Scout, presented by the City Council of Beverly, Massachusetts, June 2nd, 2025. Whereas Gregory Droman has been an outstanding, active, and involved member of Beverly's Scout Troop number 49. Whereas the rank of Eagle is the highest advancement rank in scouting and requires scouts to fulfill requirements in areas of leadership, service, and outdoor skills, requirements which Gregory has met with poise, determination, and excellence. Whereas to earn the rank of Eagle, a scout must demonstrate the many skills required to move through the ranks of scouting on the path to Eagle: tenderfoot, second class, first class, star, and life, and must earn merit badges along the journey that cover a wide range of skills and knowledge from first aid to citizenship, and must demonstrate their commitment to live by the Scout Oath and Scout Law as a sign of Scout spirit. Whereas Gregory embodies the character, the dedication to service and community, and the leadership skills that come with moving through the ranks of scouting that are hallmarks of the Eagle Scout. Whereas Gregory developed and successfully completed his Eagle Scout project after noticing in the many hours that he spent enjoying time outdoors at Harold Parker State Forest that there were no bike racks available for those going to the state forest, including many families coming with children by bike. Gregory and his team of Scout volunteers worked to build and install 2 new bike racks for the park, improving access and allowing people to more confidently use their bikes rather than cars to travel or to explore the outdoors. Whereas Gregory has completed the requirements for and been examined by an Eagle Scout Board of Review and earned the rank of Eagle, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beverly does hereby commend Gregory Droman for his excellence in community building, social and scouting activities, and congratulates him on having earned the rank of Eagle Scout as a member of Beverly Troop 49, that the council wishes him all the best in future pursuits and wishes him health, happiness, and continued success, and orders that the city clerk spread a copy of this resolution upon the city records. Congratulations, Gregory. Congratulations again, Gregory, on your outstanding work and making it more possible for people to safely use, store, and ride their bikes when they're exploring the outdoors. I'd like to now invite Nicholas Ostagai. And again, if I'm getting names wrong, you can tell me. I got it right. All right, Nicholas, you can stay right up here. This is a resolution in honor of Nicholas Ostagai upon his earning the rank of Eagle Scout, presented by the City Council of Beverly, Massachusetts, June 2nd, 2025. Whereas Nicholas Ostagai has been an outstanding, active, and involved member of Beverly's Scout Troop number 49. Whereas the rank of Eagle is the highest advancement rank in scouting and requires scouts to fulfill requirements in areas of leadership, service, outdoor skills, all requirements which Nicholas has met with poise, determination, and excellence. Whereas Nicholas embodies the character and the dedication to service and community and the leadership skills that come with moving through ranks of scouting that are the hallmarks of an Eagle Scout. Whereas Nicholas developed and successfully completed his Eagle Scout project, following on his years of having volunteered with Ellis Square Friends at their program serving free and accessible community meals in Beverly, and having noticed during that time that volunteers coming to the program's location inside a Dane Street church had a difficult time navigating the path behind the church when coming with donations. Nicholas organized a project to improve the space and to create a path for everyone to use when coming to drop off donations, creating a much safer experience for everyone involved. Whereas Nicholas has completed the requirements for and been examined by an Eagle Scout Board of Review and earned his rank of Eagle, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beverly does hereby commend Nicholas Ostagai for his excellence in community building, in social and scouting activities, and congratulates him on having earned the rank of Eagle Scout as a member of Beverly Troop 49. That the council wishes him all the best in his future pursuits and wishes him health, happiness, and continued success, and orders that the city clerk spread a copy of this resolution upon the city records. Congratulations, Nicholas. Congratulations. That's such a great project, and thank you for all your time. Next, I'd like to invite Gracelyn Skielling to come and join me. Hi, Gracelyn. You can stand right here. This is a resolution in honor of Gracelyn Skielling upon her earning the rank of Eagle Scout, presented by the City Council of Beverly, Massachusetts, June 2nd, 2025. Whereas Gracelyn Skielling has been an outstanding, active, and involved member of Beverly's Scout Troop 49. Whereas the rank of Eagle is the highest advancement rank in scouting and requires scouts to fulfill requirements in areas of leadership, service, and outdoor skills, all requirements which Gracelyn has met with poise, determination, and excellence. Whereas Gracelyn embodies the character and dedication to service and community and leadership skills that come with moving through the ranks of scouting that are the hallmarks of an Eagle Scout, and is the first female scout in the city of Beverly to earn the rank of Eagle. Whereas Gracelyn developed and successfully completed her Eagle Scout project, organizing over 24 volunteers in over 20 hours in a weekend to create a better and more usable space for an after-school drama program for students in Beverly. Gracelyn led volunteers in painting, building shelving for better storage capacity, and even creating a proper green screen for future participants of the after-school program to use, thereby ensuring a space for these students to better learn how to express themselves through drama and creative arts in a physical space that serves them more fully. Whereas Gracelyn has completed the requirements for and been examined by an Eagle Scout Board of Review on March 19th and earned the rank of Eagle, and will have her Eagle Court of Honor on June 16th, 2025 at 7:00 p.m. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beverly does hereby commend Gracelyn Skielling for her excellence in community building, social and scouting activities, and congratulates her on having earned the rank of Eagle Scout as a member of Beverly Troop 49. That the council wishes her all the best in her future pursuits and wishes her health, happiness, and continued success, and orders that the city clerk spread a copy of this resolution upon the city records. Congratulations, Gracelyn. I know I read it in the resolution, but I do want to just take a moment to note the historic quality of Gracelyn's resolution being the first female scout to earn the rank of Eagle in the city of Beverly. I just said to Gracelyn while everyone was clapping, that's a pretty amazing milestone. I'd like to invite Nicholas Tobacco to come and join me. Nicholas, am I getting the pronunciation on your last name right?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. You guys are all very flexible about your last names. A resolution in honor of Nicholas Tobacco upon his earning the rank of Eagle Scout, presented by the City Council of Beverly, Massachusetts, June 2nd, 2025. Whereas Nicholas Tobacco has been an outstanding, active, and involved member of Beverly's Scout Troop 49. Whereas the rank of Eagle is the highest advancement rank in scouting and requires scouts to fulfill requirements in areas of leadership and service and outdoor skills, requirements Nicholas has met with poise, determination, and excellence. Whereas Nicholas developed and successfully completed his Eagle Scout project after thinking about the importance of access to outdoor and green spaces on people's quality of life and on their mental health, and then working to design an outdoor garden space for Wellspring House in Gloucester, thereby creating a space for people to enjoy, to use to decompress, and to feel a sense of calm and peace. Whereas Nicholas has completed the requirements for and been examined by an Eagle Scout Board of Review and earned his rank of Eagle, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beverly does hereby commend Nicholas Tabaco for his excellence in community building, in social and scouting activities, and congratulates him on having earned the rank of Eagle Scout as a member of Beverly Troop 49. That the council wishes him all the best in his future pursuits and wishes him health, happiness, and continued success, and orders that the city clerk spread a copy of this resolution upon the city records. Congratulations, Nicholas. Thank you so much. What a great project to do for us. And then I'd like to invite Ryan Whitting to join me, please. Come on up, Ryan. You can stand right up here. Thank you. This is a resolution in honor of Ryan Whitting upon his earning the rank of Eagle Scout, presented by the City Council of Beverly, Massachusetts, June 2nd, 2025. Whereas Ryan Whitting has been an outstanding, an active, and involved member of Beverly Scout Troop 49. Whereas the rank of Eagle is the highest advancement rank in scouting and requires scouts to fulfill areas of leadership, service, and outdoor skills, all requirements which Ryan has met with poise, determination, and excellence. Whereas Ryan developed and successfully completed his Eagle Scout project after observing during his career as a high school cross-country runner that the course through the J.C. Phillips Nature Preserve used by Beverly High School for cross-country runs was not as well marked as it might have been, and made it less accessible and confusing for those who did not know the preserve well to use. Ryan organized a team of volunteers to work together on a project to improve the signage in the preserve, with one crew to redesign the signs and another working to install the new signage, creating a preserve that is better signed and less confusing, assisting all those visiting this beautiful outdoor space with better wayfinding tools. And as an aside, Ryan, I was leading a different group through that preserve yesterday, and your signs really did help us immensely. Whereas Ryan has completed the requirements for and been examined by an Eagle Scout Board of Review and earned the rank of Eagle, now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Beverly does hereby commend Ryan Whitting for his excellence in community building, social and scouting activities, and congratulates him on having earned the rank of Eagle Scout as a member of Beverly Scout Troop 49. That the council wishes him the best in all his future pursuits and wishes him health, happiness, and continued success, and orders that the city clerk spread a copy of this resolution upon the city records. Congratulations. So if you'd like to say something, you were taking Thank you so much. Congratulations. So with congratulations again for all 5 Eagle Scouts and to their families and to all of those who have supported them along the journey, because I think what's clear is that the journey that Scouts take to the rank of Eagle is not one that they do alone, including, as we heard, even their final project, which I believe part of your requirement, we heard you organize volunteers, but they have to organize volunteers to work together and to lead that project. So really is not a solitary journey. And what a joy to have all 5 of them here to make it official. Councilors, I would entertain a motion to approve Order 172. That is the 5 resolutions we just heard for these 5 Scouts. Second. All those in favor? Aye. That carries unanimously 9-0. Thank you very much, everyone. Now, adults connected with Troop 49, I did offer each of the Eagle Scouts a chance to speak if they wanted. They all said no, thank you. I don't know if there is an adult who would like to say a couple words on behalf of your troop and your Scouts, I welcome that, but you don't have to. Thank you. Thank you. Counselors, I would entertain a motion for a 5-minute recess if the scouts want to take any pictures and be able to greet, you can greet them as well. All those in favor? All right, we'll take a 5-minute recess and be back. Thank you. Scouts from Troop 49. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
I'll call the full council back to order. And we're going to pick up with our agenda with presentations, awards, and memorials. And that brings us to our presentation, as I mentioned, from our city's DEIB director, Wangari Fahari. Ms. Fahari was in the room, but is not at the moment, so we'll pause. Oh, she's congratulating the Scouts. Okay. I see her making her, no, I see her, she's coming. Oh, it's like a movie. Okay, folks on BevCam, what you can't see is the mayor and Ms. Fahari going in and out of different doors, looking for each other, and it's really like a movie that we're watching.
It's the third floor dance.
Ms. Fahari, thank you. We'll turn the floor over to you for a presentation, and then I will open up to questions from the council as well. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Mayor Cahill, for this opportunity. Our honorable City Council members, esteemed colleagues, City of Beverly staff, and our community members, those that are here with us, and those tuning in from home. So this presentation for me feels more like a summary and also a call to action. Thank you so much for this opportunity and for your continued commitment to building a more just, equitable, and inclusive Beverly. It's been maybe 2.5 years since I raised my hand and I stepped into this position, not knowing, not assuming, but based on the equity audit, looking to learn from it and to create recommendations. It's my honor today to present to you some of the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging work that spans nearly a decade. And it reflects our community's growing awareness, dedication, and collaboration. As your DEIB director, I work to embed equity into every system of our city's governance, because equity is not just about the policies. It's that every resident is seen, heard, and valued. So I moved to Beverly not too long ago, maybe a decade ago, and I always had dreams of being included, of being part of this conversation. And I thank you so much for that opportunity, that I can step into this space and not be afraid, not be nervous, feel valued, feel seen, and feel heard. So thank you for being courageous and for taking those steps forward. It really means a lot to me. So before I came into this position, as you can remember, in 2015, you all made a really wonderful decision, which was established on the Ordinance 453 with the Human Rights Committee, where 11-member body tasked with enhancing justice, inclusion, and human rights came forward, connecting residents to state and federal discrimination agencies. That was a great first step. Then, 5 years into that, in 2020, there was a catalyst for change in our city and in our nation with the tragic death of George Floyd, which ignited a reckoning across our nation and here in Beverly. It sparked immediate, compassionate action. And while I was not in this space, I was living in this city. And my husband and I were talking about this today, how we were driving to Lynch Park that day, and we saw the protests. And we were hiding in our home, not knowing what our future looked like. And in that moment, we saw the city mobilize into the streets with compassion and action. Our city leaders, thank you, Mayor Cahill. You did not pause. You stepped forward with courage, setting us on a path forward to systemic change. August 2020, Unified Beverly was founded, And it was launched, and there was great work done where community dialogues around racial equity with 2 major sessions led to the executive order of declaring racism a public health crisis. Mayor Cahill directed departments to implement strategies to address racial health inequities. Together, you made a decision to allocate $150,000 to go to this great work. Thank you. Because of that, we were able to build infrastructure and initial assessments with the Racial Equity Task Force, with 5 subcommittees, with education ahead, public health, economics, public safety, and culture. That group last convened in 2021. That's when my predecessor came to the forefront, Mr. Abu Toppin. I remember meeting Abu, and he reached out to me and told me about this great work, and he was my first inspiration. And with that came the racial equity audit, which might not have been the greatest news that we wanted to hear. Not me, not you, not anyone. But it was the truth, because we inherited a house, and the house needed work, which geared us to the 3 phases that I'm going to talk to you about today, how we've strengthened our equity system since. In 2023, I raised my hand. Thank you, Mayor Cahill, for accepting. And thank you, city councilors, for your support through this process. I was charged with implementing the audit findings and managing DEIB deliverables. One of my friends said, Wangari, that's a tall order, and I agree. But as we reflect on our progress tonight, you will hear about our alignment around core strategies, ongoing racial equity action planning, our development of frameworks in language access, digital equity, racial equity, cultural recognition, and our movement towards a collective vision that is rooted in accountability, transparency, and measurable change. I know that we don't have much time today, so I have printed some takeaways just so that you don't feel rushed through this. I want you to be part of this conversation and to please don't hesitate to reach out to me, Councillor Feldman, who is your liaison directly to the DEIB office, Chief of Staff, Jocelyn, or Mayor Cahill at any time, please. In 2023, May, so that's February, March, April, so 2 or 3 months after I took tenure, we retained our HRNA advisors, and we were able to begin the audit recommendations that came forefront. That came with the implementation and improvement planning. What does that look like? We looked at insights, progress, leadership, responsibilities, and that did not come without workshops. In September 2023, we decided that even though this conversation came inspired by the national narrative, we needed to think about what it meant to us as Beverly. And Beverly has a very deep history. So we all agreed after the findings and after the deep feedbacks that we received, because staff validation and community voice is very important. We agreed that we needed to understand better what this meant for Beverly. With this work, we were able to highlight racial inequities in health, life expectancy, and life outcomes. And then, to make that work even more stronger, we built internal diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging fluency. What does that mean? It means diversity is a fact. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different experiences. We don't come from any same place. Even if we are brothers and sisters, and we're 99.9 the same, we all have very different experiences. We acknowledge together as a city that that is a fact, and it cannot be negotiated. Equity was the choice we had to make. Were we going to take action, or were we going to sit and continue to allow others that don't feel like they should belong should continue to be left beside? Or were we going to take the actions forward to take the right moves? What I see as equity is a choice, and what I see as inclusion was the action that we all took together. Because of the racial equity audit, we learned a lot about the city that we call home, a city that I've come to really, really value. And what I learned is that still, what you look like determines how far you will go along. And I know it's a hard truth to swallow. I'm so sorry to be the bearer of these news. But it still does affect people, that the way you look still determines if you can get ahead or not. And in this climate, we see it now more than ever. But we made that choice to be inclusive, and that inclusion was the action. Belonging was the outcome. In 2024, we had our first workshop with all our department heads, where we explored why race? Why is race important? Why do we focus on that? And in July 2024, we received feedback from our departments. We decided to begin our strategy work. And looking at our demographics in Beverly, it felt right to focus on racial equity, because we noticed that we had over 4,000 people that were identifying as non-white that were not accessing our city. Because of that, we wanted to learn why, and we noticed there was a language access disconnect there. Not everyone who identified as a person of color spoke English, so we brought in language access. We also noticed that a lot of people were accessing everything through letters, or that did not use English as their first language. Letters were very important in their languages, or texts, or WhatsApp. So we needed to think of what digital connections look like. So digital equity stepped in. Then we thought about the cultural recognition, their identities, their stories, and cultural recognition stepped in. And though racial equity was the inspiration, we've continued to learn that Beverly is very diverse, and that intersects with so many other stories. As this story is very long and cannot be finalized today, I wanted to share one more thing, which is you cannot institutionalize or implement this work without science. Because if I'm no longer in this position, if someone else was to come after me, I would like for them to have something to hold on to, something I did not have, and I think it would be very important. So one of the sciences that we are trying to bring forefront is a 6-phase science, which is the discovery phase. Why is this important? The vision, collective vision, establishing a collective vision, then data, assessing that equity audit, then creating a framework that has staff validation, community voice, our city councilors hearing what you're hearing and trying to bring that to the forefront. Then public engagement with good reports that have plain English, that are accessible in different languages, that are clear. And finally, making sure that this becomes our operation day to day. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And as we move forward, I would like to close by saying, equity is not a moment. It's a sustained movement woven into culture, systems, and priorities of our city. Beverly, we are charting a path that is bold, transparent, and accountable. And I thank you for trusting me and continuing to support me. As I always say, we're building the plane while we fly. And the last 2 years have not been easy, but we've made some really amazing paths forward. And I want to welcome some questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fahari. Thank you for your presentation and for being with us this evening.
Yeah.
Councilors, I will open it up for questions or comments if you have them. Councillor St. Hilaire.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Ms. Fahari, for the update. I appreciate it. Just as a reminder to the council and to those at home, I originally filed an order requesting this sort of an update last July, refiled it again at the beginning of the year. Very happy to have you here. But the reason that, I originally sought this out was, I realized I didn't understand what our strategy was. It's been 10, 11 months now. I appreciate, we've met in person, one-on-one, but, I just got to say, we receive regular updates all the time on lots of important issues. And I would just suggest, getting before us more regularly would benefit us and I think our work together. So I just wanted to make that point. And also just say again that we're allies. The City Council has supported, I think, all of the administration's initiatives related to DEIB, including the formation of the Human Rights Committee, which you referenced, the funding of the positions and so forth. And I guess regarding the audit, I guess part of my reason for bringing up is I still don't understand, you said our house needs work, what does that mean? What is the goal? What are we trying to achieve here? If our demographics don't match, how far off are we? What has the trend been? Are we getting better? Are we getting better in certain areas? Are we not getting better in other areas? Do we have a strategy to address those things? I guess for me, I'm looking for more tangible understanding of what is it we're trying to tackle and how can we more proactively help with that from a council point of view. So I appreciate the update and look forward to the partnership and, look forward to more updates. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor. I don't think I could answer that fully, but one thing I could say is when we inherit a house, when I think of it, it's the history. And when we look at the history of Beverly, and we can tap into whatever data that is there, whether through Historic Beverly, whether through redlining, there has been opportunities there to block certain accesses, just for lack of better words. And the way that I see this is an opportunity for us to find those gaps. For example, I don't see why a woman should come in here with their 14-year-old daughter speaking a different language and having to have the 14-year-old daughter translate. So I see a gap there. So it shows that in the past, in Beverly, we have not needed to provide language access. So that is our house not having maybe a bath downstairs for our guests. So that's the way I see it. I see it as a house, not our fault, but rather inheriting a system that has been there that was designed for a certain person. And this could also be an example of this step right here while you're going up as councillors. If you need access to move from this floor to where you are, making that accessible is us inheriting a house that needs to be accessible.
Thank you, Ms. Fahari. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Feldman, I'm going to go to you next, but I'm going to pause us because it's 7:45. So I'm going to open our posted public hearing.
Thank you.
I'm going to recess it because I don't think I see members of the public here for it, and so we'll take care of some other things and come back. So let's open that public hearing on order number 169 at its posted time of 7:45. Ms. Kent.
Order number 169, City of Beverly, ordered that the City Council of the City of Beverly to hold a public hearing on Monday, June 2nd, 2025 at 7:45 p.m., 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, Council Chambers, relative to an amendment to Chapter 270, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 45, 15-minute parking in Section 66, Downtown Beverly Parking District. And this was in the newspaper on May 23rd.
Thank you, Ms. Kent. And my suggestion to recess it, because I don't yet see anyone here, is just thinking that it won't inconvenience anyone that I know is waiting, and we'll take care of some business, and then we'll come back to it. So I'd entertain a motion to recess this hearing to 8:15 and pick it up then. All those in favor? Thank you. So we'll recess that to 8:15, and we'll come back to our conversation with Ms. Fahari. Councillor Feldman, I was going to go to you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. If, yeah.
Oh, yes, please. Sorry. Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Sorry, come on back. Thank you.
So thank you for your, we've worked together for the last couple of years, Bahari, and so
Yes,
I
we
know
have.
that, I'm sorry, Ms. Bahari, and I really appreciate your ability to tell a story and, you know, flesh this out for what it means to the city. And in addition to that, I also, along with Councilor St. Hilaire, I'm a very like, what are we doing? What are our actions? What are our numbers type of person? And I really enjoyed my role in being able to be on this committee because I am an action-oriented person. Because if we're not doing something and we're just talking about it, it just, I feel like I'm not serving the people that I was elected to represent by doing that. So I just wanted to, from a numbers and like data perspective of what we are doing and what I have seen as in my role as a liaison to the city council, is that it has been invaluable to have all of the department heads in the same space to understand how the issues that are equity issues affect each of the departments and how they can all work together in terms of bringing forward that access. And without a point person in this in Ms. Bahari's role, there's no real reason for that to happen unless there was the structure that was created to bring these people together. Because some of the problems that, in terms of equity, you know, we've talked about the language access and getting the iPads that were accessible, shared between departments in City Hall, knowing where there can be a translation iPad. That was a really big victory. But what I found even more interesting was at the last workshop at the Council on Aging was the inequities that not only people of lower socioeconomic status or foreign language had, but also our seniors in terms of digital equity access. And so I think that there's a misconception of what DEIB work is and who it's serving, because I really saw such value in that workshop of the digital equity and inclusion. And I don't think we can make, I know that I'm not the only counselor that faces the people that call you up and you're like, I would love to put this in an email or submit a ticket on and they're just like, I don't have a computer, I don't have an email, and you're like jotting down notes in your car, and then you're submitting the ticket on through QSend yourself. And that was just something that really struck me as like, I think there's a misconception of the work that you are doing and the value that it is to the city, to all of the departments, to make us all work more efficiently for all of the residents in the city. So I'm a numbers girl. I just had to bring up the data of that map that we saw, the windows of, and Ward 5 was one of the biggest areas of digital inequality. Yes. And I can tell you, I can see exactly where it is. That's where the older people in the area live.
Yes.
And it was a really fascinating, it's really fascinating work, and anybody that wants to talk more about it, I'm happy to share.
Right, and even though in my head I had this very analytical thing I wanted to bring, I have a ton of numbers that I could just go about. I just wanted to connect with you for the first time. But there's a lot of data. We've done a lot of events, touched a lot of lives, and I think this is not just about policy, it's the moral fabric of our city. It's shifting and people are reaching out. Today we had our Becoming Digitally Ready. We do it every first Monday of the month at the Council on Aging, where we are not just doing a workshop and leaving, we're building communities and relationships where seniors can meet and continue to advance their digital skills. And it's the same thing with language access. We have our training program where we help our employees to transition from being speakers to translators. We have our racial equity work where we can see that our BIPOC diversity is growing. And to talk about diversity too, right now, I'm shifting my goals from not just the workforce, but retention within the city by becoming more welcoming. We can then start to reflect those numbers in our workforce. I think those two really go well together. And housing, making sure that those opportunities, I'm excited about Amara having some of the spaces that are more affordable for incoming employees. So I think there's definitely a lot there that I can share, but I just want to make sure I give you your time to do and I would love to keep doing this and continue to share more. There's definitely a lot there. Thank you, Councilor Feldman.
Thank you. I know a few other counselors are waiting. I also know Ms. Fahari is suggesting we can have her back and have further conversation, but I will go to Counselor Rotundo, Counselor Sweeney, and then we can, Counselor Houseman, did I see your hand? I have you on my list. All right. Okay, okay. Counselor Rotundo, and then we'll go to Counselor Sweeney, and then if
Thanks,
there's a last.
Madam President. Ms. Fahari, thank you, and obviously you and I have had many conversations, and I will truly say, as I'm biased and I'm selfish, that I am always advocating for the people up in Apple Village, which is exactly everything we've been talking about for the last 5 years, the inequities. You know, and I think my frustration with this whole process, and I know it's a marathon, and I get that's the community engagement piece or the poor communication, and that's partially on all of us to try to do a better job of communicating. I'm hoping, hearing, and I know that Councilor Feldman being the liaison, but maybe, you know, I know that some of us have implemented with the school committee is to set quarterly reports so that councils have the opportunity to see the analytical pieces. You know, for me, I look at there are numerous activities that have gone on, and I don't know, you know, I know you were having your own stumbling and as well blockades amongst some of your peers to get these programs to the kids who we should really be helping out. And, you know, were you successful in the last several months with the sailing program or, you know, reaching out for the photography with the cabin? I mean, these are programs where we have such a giving community that's willing to open up and get kids who may not have ever these opportunities, but it seems as if we're missing that bridge of connecting and communicating to these people and getting them the awareness of this. So I just want to know, do you have a plan on doing a better job of communicating those things as well as getting better community engagement out there? I mean, it has been several years, and I know your predecessor did a lot of that work, and some of these, and I'll speak from my own experience, you know, the South Signaling Science Camp still goes on now, it's year 3. You know, it was built, it's been sustainable, but there are other opportunities, you know, the sailing program, for instance, that you have in your year 2 is, have you had any success getting that up and going now?
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Rotundo. Yes, we have made some large improvements this year, and I believe the work that we've done the last 2 years is the reason things look a little more promising this year. I've always talked about safe access. Belonging is very important, but also making sure that the space is ready so that we can sustain and retain. Like I said, we need to retain our residents, we need to retain our workforce, and if there's that reputation, I can see that we are starting to fill those spaces. So for example, we did launch the Diversify the Sailing program where I collaborated with Sandy Point and the Jubilee Yacht Club. And for this year, we were able to sign the 4 children that will be then receiving the scholarships. I do want to express that it's not easy to bring new energy in a space, right? It has to be a work that we do together. So even though that I can reach one-on-one and build these relationships, I would like to see that being done at in a larger capacity so that is clear that it's not a Wangari thing, it's our collaboration. Then that way we can hold it more. Again, I'm a one-person office, and I have 6, 7 positions that I'm holding, so I do the best that I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Sweeney?
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Ms. Fahari, for that presentation. I know we've had the chance to speak throughout your tenure with the city, and I certainly appreciate you bringing forward the progress that you've made in this role and that the city has made collectively through these efforts.
Thank you, Councilor.
And just to echo the points made by Councilor St. Hilaire and Feldman, and I think Councilor Feldman put it well about the benefit of bringing forward both tangibly what we've achieved and then measurable objectives going forward, both to bring forth the work that your role that you're doing in your role, but that the city is moving forward, but also to kind of lay out a more a thought out roadmap, essentially. I think that helps because then we kind of know what our tangible goals are and what we're working toward. And on that end, I think it's good that you've identified language access, cultural recognition, and digital equity as upcoming areas that we need to progress as a city. And so I'm looking forward, probably your next update to the council when we have some more tangible deliverables that you think we can accomplish as a city, policies that you want to bring forward and whatnot. One area that I didn't see on the list, but I know we've talked about, is the importance of accessibility for those with physical disabilities in some of our city facilities, playgrounds. And I know that there's also both physical disabilities, but then other types of sensory disabilities, maybe things that aren't as obvious, but that still provide a barrier that needs to be overcome for a child, you know, on a city playground or otherwise. Could you maybe talk about some of the work that, the progress that we've made in this space and some areas that you'd like to see us focus on going forward to bridge that divide on accessibility?
Yes, thank you, Council Sweeney. And as the ADA coordinator, that is very close to my heart personally, but also as part of my position. So I do oversee the Commission on Disabilities. It was a bit quiet, but we got it rolling, and we are working, I'm working closely with the Commission on Disabilities as well as our grants office. We should start applying for our Mass on Disabilities grant. This will allow us to update our transition plan for this year, which then gives us an opportunity to start projecting on what we want to see. I'm already beginning conversations with the Greater Beverly Chamber of Commerce to start engaging with businesses. I'm constantly engaging with the hospital, with the schools, with homes, and every time we have construction, if the sidewalk needs boarding or we need to put signage to let a person that has a disability know that there's a construction, we are constantly working. I do see that we need to do a bit of heavy lifting this year in terms of communications to ensure that our residents are aware that these meetings are happening, because without that community voice, then we cannot have that inclusion. So there's definitely an opportunity this year to double down on accessibility for a city with this grant, and more to come. I also want to share that we have a citywide racial equity report and plan due at the end of this year. It's about 70 to 80 pages going right now, and you'll be able to have a lot of that data, which I would love to bring when you have more time to unpack that with me. But there's definitely, I'm really excited. I don't know if you can tell that I'm trying to hold myself from bragging as much as I want, but there's definitely a lot to brag about in the achievements of my colleagues in the past couple of years.
That's great. I'm looking forward to reading that plan, and I think I certainly commend you for taking the initiative on the self-evaluation plan and trying to make sure that we are fully assessing the work that we need to do to make our facilities more accessible. One more question I have for you is with regards to how your office works with the schools, and I know that the schools have made a similar commitment to trying to identify and address any inequities or other issues that perhaps may have gone unnoticed in the past.
Right.
Could you talk a little more about both efforts to date in collaboration between your office and the schools, and then whether you think the way that we are structured currently is conducive to success, if there is any joint initiatives to be had in the city between your department and the work of Dr. Morgan in the Beverly Public Schools?
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. The youth, our children are the future, and without them, our city is lost. So Dr. Morgan and I work very closely, as well as Superintendent Charachek. I do honor the policies that the schools have to protect our young ones, and I do the best that I can to work with the superintendent's office when we have to respond, but also to include them and involve them in our activities. I know that you've seen an increase in engagement of students in the past cultural recognition events, but moving into this year, I do want to say that because of this consciousness of trying to honor and protect our children, we are making decisions on safe access in terms of engaging with our schools to make sure that we're making really good decisions in how we connect. But we work very, very closely together, and I'm very grateful for that. And I always say, there's a proverb in Africa. We say, when the elephants fight, the grass suffers. So I always try to say, no matter what, Dr. Morgan and I are always connected, and we'll always do what's right for the city.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Vahari. Communication is certainly important, so I'm glad to hear that.
Absolutely, yes.
That's it for me, Madam President.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bowen, let's have one last thought for now from you, and then I think what we're hearing is this is not a final conversation. Ms. Vahari, you're suggesting that you'd love to come back with some of the reporting that you're going to have.
Right.
I think there's an appetite among the council to continue to work with you and talk with you about that. So we'll consider this a pause on a bigger conversation. Councilor Bowen.
Thank you, and I very much appreciate the work and the check-in on it. One of the things I'm thinking about as we head into a whole series of budget hearings is being able to use this framework to ask departments about progress that's been made in each department on racial equity, language access, digital equity, and cultural recognition in their work, since it is this sort of matrixed work that each department is having these principles embedded in their work, and the city as a whole has a strategy that we're aiming towards. So if there is anything else that we should be paying attention to draw out all those other highlights that there wasn't time to share today, or areas of challenge that specific departments are needing resources to tackle. I know we've heard about some departments investing in language access tools. Right. They're not necessarily universal across departments. So if you have thoughts for us as we go through the budget process and are talking to department heads over the next few weeks of what we might ask to really draw out what resources are needed and what's been going well over the last year or two.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilor Bowen. And absolutely. I'm very grateful for your work and the budget that I have come in. It's definitely allocated, and your generosity has shown in your great work in the last 10 years in allocating what is needed. I do see an opportunity to tap into the DEIB budget this year for language access, considering that I'm now taking over the work without the HR and the advisors. So we are ready to become independent and to move forward in implementing the 4 strategies.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Ms. Fahari, for this presentation. Thank you, councillors, for your questions and conversation. Councillor St. Hilaire, thank you for your original filing that helped us get to this point so we can continue this conversation with Ms. Fahari, and we will look forward to having you back to hear more about the work that you've been doing and also the data that you're collecting from it. Thank you for the window into it that you gave us this evening. Thanks for your time.
My honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next presentation, we do have a presentation from our Mayor Cahill. And as I alluded to earlier, for folks who were watching on BevCam or who were here with us, you won't hear a full conversation with the council about the presentation we're going to get on the budget. And that's because we'll be entering into a very intensive budget conversation process. It will be happening in our Finance and Property Subcommittee led by Councillor St. Hilaire, who's the chairman of that committee, over the coming weeks. And so this is a presentation. Mayor, thank you for being here to present the budget. I'd just like to explain why, if you're following along, you won't hear a lot of conversation now, but can expect it this month. Thank you, Mayor.
Good to see everybody. I want to thank Ms. Fahari for her presentation and her great work. Good evening, city councilors, and thank you for this opportunity to present some thoughts regarding the proposed fiscal year 2026 City of Beverly operating budget that I present to you tonight. As the current fiscal year comes to a close, I want to remind us all of certain things we have accomplished with the funding provided by the fiscal year 2025 budget these past 12 months. First, we transitioned to a civilian professional staff and launched our combined emergency 911 dispatch service to deliver this critically important function for our residents, our businesses, and everyone who visits our city. Outstanding planning and work have gone into making this transition successful, and my heartfelt thanks go to our dispatch director, Stephanie Brown, and her dispatch staff, as well as to Police Chief John LaLasher, Fire Chief Peter O'Connor, and their collective departments. One related benefit to this transition is that we now have an additional police officer on every shift, formerly required to answer phones, who is now available to serve outside the station in the community. Second, and you've heard me make this point many times, most of what we do in local government is to deliver the services that people need and expect, keeping people safe, serving our seniors and veterans, providing great libraries and beautiful parks and beaches, providing strong, high-quality public schools, a thriving local economy, maintaining and improving our buildings, roads, sidewalks, and more. All these services are provided to the community by our employees. So salaries, health care, pensions, and other benefits rightly make up the greatest part of our budget every year. With this past year, fiscal year 2025, being the first year of the current 3-year contracts for every city and school union, we together last year made strong investments across the board, and every union in the city settled their contracts during the course of this past year. Comparative salaries throughout the region set the market for all these contracts, and every municipal and school employee union in Beverly secured strong 3-year contracts that both compensate them fairly and competitively and fit within the city's fiscal capabilities. This was not achieved easily, and it has required that we tighten and eliminate operating budget spending in certain areas, including by eliminating the operating budget line for roads and sidewalks and significantly decreasing funding for city vehicles. Further, after remaining modestly below the state ceiling for property tax increases, known as the tax levy limit, a step we took together in fiscal year 2022 to mitigate against the increased burden on Beverly homeowners caused when commercial property values struggled while residential values experienced large increases during the pandemic. We will, with this proposed fiscal year 2026 budget, return to the levy limit for property taxes. It should be noted that Beverly has been at the levy limit most years since Proposition 2.5 became law in the early 1980s. With the proposed fiscal year 2026 operating budget that I propose to you tonight, we will undertake our second straight year of truly massive historic investments in our Beverly Public Schools. In fiscal year 2025, we increased funding for our schools by nearly 8%. And tonight, we are proposing a 9.1% increase for fiscal year 2026 for the Beverly Public Schools. This represents a $12.7 million increase in the Beverly Public Schools budget over 2 years, with $11.5 million of this being city taxpayer money. With your support, we will continue to provide our children a truly outstanding education. This proposed budget will ensure that in the next school year, we will employ 55 more school staff than we did in the 2019-2020 school year, the last budget prior to the pandemic. Specifically, the budget I propose to you tonight will spend $7.1 million in new money. Again, most of this, $6.44 million of it, being city taxpayers' money on the Beverly Public Schools. When we add the increased spending necessary to send Beverly students to Essex Tech and to outside charter schools, we will spend nearly $7.6 million in new money to educate our Beverly children. The budget I propose tonight will achieve all of this. And of utmost importance, it also will fund the many critical city services our community depends on, and it will empower our public safety and public health departments to continue to keep Beverly residents safe. Third, working collaboratively with Councilor Hausman for the whole 12 years of my administration, with some of you for much of my tenure, and with all of you throughout this past year, we have built our stabilization fund and our cash reserves so that whenever a recession does come, we will be able to keep funding our schools and city departments and delivering the critical services our community needs right on through a recession and beyond to better economic times. With $23.77 million currently in our stabilization fund and a projected $9.5 million to be certified as free cash or cash reserves later this calendar year, our reserves together will represent over 19% of our proposed fiscal year 2026 operating budget. Keeping in mind that our financial policies call for reserves equaling somewhere between 13 and 23% of our operating budget, 19% puts us in an appropriately strong financial position. Specific to cash reserves, we have effectively and responsibly built and managed a level of cash reserves consistent with our financial policies and recognized best practices during my time as mayor. This has empowered us to use cash reserves to pay for many needs that are typically too expensive to handle within our operating budget, while keeping our long-term borrowing capacity for larger building projects. As a sampling, in recent years, we have paid for the following projects with cash reserves: a new floor for the North Beverly Fire Station, capable of supporting the pumper truck housed there; our new high school softball fields, new track, and new turf field; our new computer-assisted dispatch system for our emergency 911 call center; new roofs for Department of Public Services buildings; a new fire ladder truck; the purchase of lots on Simon Street to create 2 pocket parks for our families in one of Beverly's most densely developed urban neighborhoods; the stands and lights at the Beverly High School turf field; repairs to the elevator at the main branch library; replacement of failing electrical switches at Beverly High School; design work for replacing the signalized intersections on Route 1 at the North Beverly Fire Station and Henry's Market, and at the intersection of Cabot and Mantoul Streets by the harbor front. Note, the state paid for the construction work on these projects. In 2015, after the winter that we experienced 4 Sunday night blizzards in a row, we used cash reserves to pay for the nearly $1.5 million shortfall in that year's snow and ice budget. I share this because we need our cash reserves to remain strong as protection against a future recession. Well, we also will look to these same reserves for expenses such as those just mentioned. Now, since we of necessity propose eliminating the operating budget lines for city vehicles and road and sidewalk funding, cash reserves will be looked to as a source of city funding for these needs as well. We will keep all of this foremost in mind as we navigate the fiscal landscape together throughout this coming year. In this vein, you have a communication from me before you tonight and an agenda item requesting that you set a public hearing to consider appropriating $3 million in cash reserves or free cash for road and sidewalk improvements this coming year. I respectfully ask for your support in this important effort. Taken together with the Chapter 90 funds provided by the state each year and funds we have secured from National Grid to repave all streets along the route of their new electric transmission line, along with commitments made by both National Grid and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation to repave specific streets torn up by gas main replacement in the case of National Grid, and to repave sections of state-numbered routes in Beverly in the case of MassDOT. This would make available well over $8 million this year, a very needed and welcome infusion of funds to significantly upgrade our roads and sidewalks and improve safety for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers throughout our community. Given that our operating budget cannot accomplish everything, and our cash reserves cannot be relied upon to meet every capital need, we will continue to be creative. For example, by seeking grant funding to help us make progress. When first elected as your mayor, we created the position of grants director. Over the last 11+ years, we have secured over $80 million in grants, an impressive record for a community that does not qualify from any of the state and federal sources of funds which are targeted for more depressed communities. We will continue to be proactive, collaborative, and creative as we seek new grant and other funding opportunities. Our operating budget includes an important line item for servicing debt on long-term borrowings. And as you know, this is how we handle most of the costs of many significant capital projects. This is how we have financed every school project that the city has undertaken since the 1990s. It is also how we financed the new police station. A healthy municipality invests in maintaining, improving, and when necessary, replacing its buildings and other key infrastructure. It issues debt, pays its mortgages, and eventually retires debt, then again issues new debt to meet the next capital need. Pursuant to our capital plan, the next proposed capital project to be financed with long-term debt is City Hall, a building whose last significant renovation took place in the 1930s. As the seat of local government for almost 200 years, this building is in great need of investment. With funds already appropriated, we have worked through schematic design and have recently moved into the design document phase of the project. Our project team will attend the June 16th City Council meeting to update the City Council and the community on progress to date and next steps, including when to expect that we will bring forward to you a request for appropriation of the total project budget. I share this tonight in part to remind us all that we need to hold a certain capacity in our operating budget each year for servicing the outstanding bonds on projects already built and to layer in new debt as older debt is retired. Our fiscal year 2026 proposed operating budget requests a total increase in spending of $7.762 million over the fiscal year 2025 approved budget. The largest portion of this increase is directly attributable to two things. One, as I explained earlier, the cost for our employees' compensation, and two, other non-discretionary cost increases, most notably the city's federally and state mandated pension contribution related to employees and retirees will increase by over $570,000. Trash and recycling costs will increase by $165,000. Cherry sheet assessments, i.e. assessments against our state aid, will increase by $138,000 due to numerous assessments increasing. City health insurance premiums relating to employees and retirees will increase by 10% or over $676,000 in fiscal year 2026. Please note that many other communities will see increases of 15 to 20% or more. The Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School assessment will increase by $385,000. I'm grateful to all city department heads, and particularly to Finance Director Bryant Ailes. Thanks to a very collaborative effort, I can say to you that the budget before you this evening will empower us to deliver the services our community needs across all departments throughout the coming year. I look forward to working with the City Council in the coming days as you conduct your budget deliberations. Thank you for your good faith partnership and your consideration of this proposed fiscal year 2026 City of Beverly operating budget that we present to you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And as I mentioned, we'll have a chance to dig into this budget that the mayor was just presenting to us. Councilor St. Hilaire, I don't know if you want to say anything about the first of those scheduled meetings for those who might be following along.
No, I'd just like to say thank you to the mayor, Mr. Ailes, Mr. Perry, in advance for all of your work and to my colleagues as well. Any word on maybe when the digital version might be available to the public?
About 10 minutes? Once you go to your, it'll be ready by tomorrow morning.
And I just wanted to note, this process has changed a lot since I was first on the council in 2013. We now have a digital version that gives access not only to us, but to the public in far more detail than we've had access to in the past. So I look forward to the debates. To my colleagues, please come prepared and look forward to our discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor. Thank you again, Mayor Cahill, for your presentation. Thank you, Mr. Ailes, as well, for your work. And we'll look forward to that process. We will refer, this is Order 171. The presentation we just heard, the mayor's budget itself is Order 171. We'll refer Order 171 to Finance and Property now so that we can begin that budget process together, as Councilor St. Hilaire was describing. Thank you. So we are a little past the time that we had recessed our public hearing to. I know we do have two speakers who are waiting to speak, so I'm going to reopen that public hearing, and then I would entertain a motion to recess that hearing to 8:30. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. So we'll move that back to 8:30. That's the public hearing in Order 169. If there are members of the public who've been following along and you're planning to come speak, you can pop over here now, add your name. So we do have two members of the public who have signed up to speak. These are regular speaker spots that are available at our regular meetings. You can sign up for these by contacting the city clerk's office no later than 9:30 the morning of the meeting. And they are first come, first served. There are 5 spots in total for 3 minutes per speaker. And we do try to really hold to that 3 minutes so that everybody has the same and equitable amount of time. To that end, Vice President Crowley will be keeping time on the timer. And so for all of our speakers this evening, when you hear the timer, if you would drag your remarks to a close at that point, that way we can make sure that we hold to the 3-minute mark. So thank you, and we will do speakers in the order that they contacted the clerk, which means Stacey Ames, who happens to also be our former Ward 3 City Councilor. Welcome back, Ms. Ames. You're our first speaker this evening. I'd invite you to begin with your name and address for the record, and then Vice President Crowley will start your 3 minutes, and if you would just draw your remarks to a close when you hear the timer go off. Thank you.
You bet. I have my own little timer here, too. I'm Stacey Ames, and I live at 3 Prospect Street. It's really lovely to see all of you and to be back in this room. I'm here to talk to you on a couple of short matters important to me. First, I want to say that for me, Jews are now in peril across this country. For the second time in 2 weeks, innocent, peace-loving Jews have been viciously attacked, 2 killed. The Boston Globe headlines email this morning didn't even mention the firebombing in Boulder. From the left and the right, hateful words lead to hateful action. We, by experience, know here that it happens. And so all of this makes me think about a story I heard recently that I want to share with you. Folks in a dry desert town decided to gather to pray for rain. The region was in a long drought, and their crops were suffering. All the people came together, focused their energy, and prayed for rain. And later that night, it began to rain. And once home, a young boy turned to his parents and commented, "How come no one thought that the prayers would work?" And the parents were confused, and they asked their son why he thought that. And the son answered, "Because no one brought an umbrella." Like every year, this council has a daunting task ahead of it this month. But this year, we must admit, the budget broke us. A 17-day teacher strike illustrates the fact that we don't all agree on how our tax dollars are spent. My plea to the council, as you deliberate, is please bring your proverbial umbrellas. Vote with your best intentions, your best selves. Please view these discussions as our attempt to take care of each other. Children, elders, taxpayers, and businesses alike. As elected officials, you are here to represent our values. It's our long-term endeavor not to win or to lose, but to do incrementally better. This budget is a step along a long path that defines who Beverly is today and as a peace-loving community and who we are willing to work to become. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ames. Thank you. And thank you to both of our speakers. I should have said before I invite either up, I know that you've been waiting, and that can be, the speaker spots can be a little in flux, and so thank you for your time and your patience as well. Our second speaker this evening is Paul Hansen-Mitev, and if you would, similar to Ms. Ames, begin with your name and address for the record when you hear Vice President Crowley's timer go off. If you too would just draw your remarks to a close at that 3-minute mark, just as Ms. Ames did. Thank you.
My name is Paul Hansen-Mitev from 25 Vine Street in Matt St. Hilaire's, Ward 6, Precinct 1. First and foremost, I wish that Ms. Ames had 2 more minutes to share what she had to say. And I'm not sure, has there ever been a city council where 4 individuals signed up to speak during the public allocated time? If so, maybe that should extend it to 20 minutes and return to the 5 minutes necessary. So just quickly, I spoke with some individuals who are unhoused. They hope that maybe the Family Dollar can be used to meet their needs, whether it's shelter or services. Secondly, Mayor Cahill was kind enough to acknowledge me when I was dropped off by a young gentleman who was a graduate of Beverly High School and would be considered perhaps a person of color. Just to be blunt, he acknowledges that Beverly suffers from institutional racism as much today as it did 5 years ago. And in keeping with that, I do want to remind the City Council of the ongoing genocide in Gaza, for which we are responsible as American citizens supporting the State of Israel and the Israeli Defense Forces, and the importance of being able to speak one's conscience and exercise freedom of speech and the right to petition our government. So in keeping with that, when we look at Beverly, what do we see? People who may look more like Ukraine or more like Palestine. And if I may, during the Great Hunger in Ireland, children were admonished by their parents to say the rosary, to say their Our Father and their Hail Marys. But today in Gaza, we see persons who look like the little Jesus of Nazareth who grew up to compose and teach that prayer, and who the American Pope today, women who look like Mary, the Mother of God. Please be mindful of that. And lastly, I can show you records, parish records, and I'm sorry for the tone. I feel rushed. I can show many, many parish records from Ireland of children whose parents are long dead, whose siblings died because of their youth, whose names in those parish records are not only Kennedy, Fitzgerald, Fitzpatrick, and Curley, but also Monaghan, and Scanlon, and Crowley, and Cahill, and Sweeney. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dead Irish children because of the unfeeling British Empire and their refusal to provide foodstuffs from America.
Thank you, Mr.
Please be mindful of that.
Thank you.
Thank you kindly.
Thank you. Thank you to both our speakers for their flexibility and patience as we move through our agenda this evening. And thank you for your time this evening. We will go, actually, we're right at the time to pick up that recessed public hearing. So we will reopen that public hearing on Order 169. Ms. Kent has already read the order. And Councillor Spang, this is a proposed ordinance amendment that came to us through your filing. I don't know if you want to start us off with any background or conversation?
Sure. This came out of emails from residents and talking to residents on Wallace Street, as well as from people who reached out who don't live on Wallace Street and were experiencing similar issues. Parking is tight a lot of places downtown, but in particular, this is where the Wallace Street and Cabot Street come together. And there's parking allowed as you're driving towards Cabot on Wallace on the right-hand side of the street. And sometimes there's maybe one spot left for legal parking on the left side of the street. But the way that the signs were configured, people were parking all the way down towards the theaters and often parking on the sidewalk or half on the sidewalk. And it was impeding the ability for traffic to get through and for emergency response vehicles to get down. So the filing was filed to clarify that there should be parking just on the one side of the street, on the right side as you're driving up Wallace. And then the reason for the public hearing is because the ordinance was also amended to include metered parking on the section of Wallace Street between Park Street and Rantoul Street, where there are meters already. So it's just to match, so that the ordinance will match the experience on the street.
Thank you very much, Counselor Spang.
And Counselor Sweeney also, residents reached out to him as well, so we filed it jointly.
That's true, thank you. I was remiss in not noting that. Thank you, Counselor Sweeney. I do know that you had filed it together and worked on it together. Counselor Sweeney, anything you wanted to add?
Well, I'll just add quickly, points Counselor Spang already made, but the one being that multiple residents, either that live on Wallace Street or nearby, have brought this to my attention during my time on the city council, and that both Counselor Spang and I agreed that the one area where we're proposing the 15-minute parking space is a unique business, because it's La Victoria's is right there, there's a pretty regular turnover of customers, and it operates with the same traffic that a business on Cabot or Rantoul would, but the parking configuration on Wallace really is not the same level of options. So there's almost always an issue where somebody is, throwing their hazards on and parking in the middle of the street. And so this was due to that analysis from Counselor Spang and I, and not from any specific request of the business. And I just want to make that point clear, because this is not something the council typically does in front of businesses on Cabot and Rantoul, and it really is because this is a unique situation that we felt it made sense to include in this proposal.
Thank you, Counselor Sweeney. There are no members of the public signed up to speak in this public hearing, so counselors, are there any other comments or questions? Counselor St. Hilaire.
I guess if this is targeted towards sort of La Victoria, do they have a position on this? Or are they familiar with this request? Do we know?
If I may, Madam President, so we didn't, and Counselor Spang may have a different answer. I did not communicate directly with them because I view this as a matter that is not specific to them as the tenant of that location, but just to the situation that I think we see pretty routinely where traffic builds up in that one corner of Wallace Street to the point that it's not safe for those trying to get through. So we didn't, I at least didn't see the need to bring it up to the business directly.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions from counselors or comments at this time? Okay. Thank you, sorry. So, yes, please, Counselor Spang, go
If I
ahead.
may, I just
You
wanted to
may.
thank the mayor and city engineer Lisa Chandler, who also participated in a walk audit through Ward 2, where residents raised similar concerns. So it is something that has been discussed more broadly as well.
Thank you, Counselor. So I will close this public hearing. We'll refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs for some further action this evening. Thank you both very much. Let's go to our next item on our agenda. We have acceptance of minutes of previous meetings. We do have 2 sets of meeting minutes that we can accept this evening. The first from our regular city council meeting, May 5th, 2025, and the other from a special city council meeting, May 19th, 2025. Is there a motion to approve these 2 sets of minutes? All those in favor? Aye. Carries 9-0. Thank you very much. Ms. Kent, let's go to communications from His Honor the Mayor, please.
Order number 173, a grant for $19,915. It's a state grant from Massachusetts Department of Transportation for the Beverly Regional Airport.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property.
Order number 174 for a grant for $443,435 from the United States Department of Transportation, FAA, to purchase a snow removal and spreader vehicle for the Beverly Regional Airport.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property.
Order 175, an appointment for James Hill to serve as Director of Emergency Management.
Please refer that to the Committee on Public Services.
Order number 176, a transfer request of $100,000 from the city's certified free cash balance to be placed into the city's Centennial Fund.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property to set a public hearing.
Order number 177, a transfer request of $3 million from the city's certified free cash balance placed into the city's Road and Sidewalk Capital Fund.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property to set a public hearing as well. Let's go to communications from other city officers and boards, please.
Order number 178 from President Flowers, a reappointment for Heather Richter, 9 Riverview Street, to serve as member at large on the Community Preservation Committee.
Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 179 from President Flowers, a proposed revisions to our city council rules.
Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order 77A from Councilor Spang, a proposed amendment to downtown parking ordinance, Chapter 270, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 66B1, downtown parking, Pleasant Street.
Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs, and we'll set a public hearing for that one.
Order number 180 from Councilor Rotundo, a request to add to ordinance chapter 270-49, section C, to add a handicap space at 27 Giles Ave.
Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs as well. We have some unfinished business from a previous meeting. The first is Order 14. This was a renewal application for a Class 2 license for Alba Auto. There's actually a new owner in process. Councilor Rotundo, were you about to raise your hand? Okay. So this business is changing over, and so this order will not be relevant. So I would entertain a motion to receive and place on file Order 14. All those in favor? Aye. That carries 9-0. And so I'm sure in due course we'll be able to meet and interact with the new owner. And then Order 65, Councilor St. Hilaire, this was your request for an update on the city's DEIB plan. Would you like to receive and place that on file at this point?
Yeah, we got that tonight.
All right, thank you. I'd entertain a motion to receive and place on file. Second. All those in favor? Thank you. We'll receive and place on file.
It's ending today, so.
We'll come back to Order 26. Thank you, Ms. Kent. I have the same question. Let's take, well, if you all agree, I would entertain a motion to take a break for some subcommittee work. All those in favor? Aye. That carries 9-0. Let's have Finance and Property here in the chamber, Legal Affairs in the committee room, Public Services in the hall. And chairs will do about a 15-minute break at the most. Come back and finish up. Anything longer, we'll schedule another meeting.
Call to order the Committee on Finance and Property. So good evening, everybody. Number of items just referred to us tonight. I guess we'll take up Order 173 first. This is a grant cities received for $19,915 from the Mass DOT Aeronautics Division for the Beverly Regional Airport. And I just wanted to know we have Mr. Hannafin and looks like Mr. Italic from the Airport Commission and Ms. Barrett here from our City Grants Director. What can you tell us about this one?
Hello, thank you. Catherine Barrett, Grants Director. I'll say a few words, but really I want our Airport Director to speak about these two grants. I just want to congratulate Gabe on his 2-year anniversary with the city, which is
Excellent.
Tomorrow. He's been an
Congratulations.
exceptional addition to the Beverly Regional Airport, and it's a pleasure to work with him. So the first grant is a state portion of a larger grant that we received back in August. The federal portion came in August, and I'll let Gabe speak to that, because I thought maybe the counselors would need a refresh on the
update, yeah.
yeah, on the grant from August.
That'd be great.
But usually with a lot of our airport grants, we have a federal portion, we have a state portion, and we have a city portion. So there's a lot of moving parts to them. So I think it's helpful to have the airport director here to talk to those as well. So I'll let Gabe talk about it.
Thank you.
Hi, counselors. Thank you again. Yeah, so I can tackle that. Sorry, remind me, which one do you have up first?
We have the 19,915
Yes, okay.
from Mass DOT
Yeah,
Aeronautics.
so back in August last year, I came with the $358,000 federal portion of this grant. This is all related to looking ahead to FY27. We're going to do a complete rebuild of our main runway. Before we can actually put shovels in the ground on that, we have to do all the environmental and permitting and studies process. And so this is the environmental portion of that, to look at the environmental impact that this project will have out at the airport. We got that grant agreement from the federal government, the FAA, last year. For whatever reason, the state portion kind of was a slow process on the state side, so we just got that offer to us within the last couple of weeks, and so that's what's before you tonight. There's already work going on the environmental stuff in anticipation for this final state, and then of course we have our share as well of 19,915, which is already budgeted and allocated for this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hannafin, and seems like a pretty big project.
Yes.
Excellent. Colleagues, any questions or comments, Mr. Sweeney? Councilor Sweeney?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just quickly, I'll echo Ms. Barrett's assessment and congratulate you, Mr. Hannafin, on getting toward your 2-year mark, and I think you've done some great things for the airport. These grants were a good example of that. It's great to see the magnitude of funding being brought in for such a sizable project so that we can fund most of it from money outside anything locally, but then in addition to that, seeing that you were able to utilize the Airport Enterprise Fund balance for the local match so that at the end of the day, there's really nothing coming out of the pockets of city property taxpayers to pay for pretty significant improvements on the airport. And so that's, I think that's great, and the more that we can leverage these type of grants for sizable projects at the airport, I think that's a real benefit to the city.
Yeah,
so thank you for your work.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing that up. I take a lot of pride in being able to bring these improvements in infrastructure to the city with as little burden on the taxpayer as possible. So thank you for that.
Okay, well, I guess while we have you here, you know, I guess I guess maybe we should vote on 173. So I guess I'd entertain a motion to approve Order 173.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that is approved, 3-0. Now we'll move to Order 174. This is a grant for $453,435 from the U.S. DOT FAA for some sort of snow removal vehicle. What are we getting?
Yeah, of course. So just for context, the last time that the airport got a new snowplow was 2001. So we're well overdue for snowplow. The funding for this actually comes from, if you'll remember, in the previous federal administration, a big push of that administration was the bipartisan infrastructure law. And part of that allocated a great deal of money to airports that previously had not been allocated to airports. And so that allows us to use federal funds, which in normal circumstances wouldn't necessarily be available for these type of projects. The rule of thumb is the feds will fund from the center of the runway out. And so the runways take priority. So they'll want to see a runway done before a taxiway, before a ramp, before equipment. And so what that results in is a lot of aging equipment and infrastructure that isn't necessarily runways and taxiways. So the bipartisan infrastructure law put some money back into airports to allow funding of projects such as that. And so we're using a portion of this. We get give or take $250,000 per year for 4 years, 2021, 2, 3, 4, are the fiscal years that we get about $250,000 allocation. So this takes our FY '21 and some portion of our FY '22 bipartisan infrastructure law allocation and puts it towards getting a new plow. We put out to bid, we eventually got one bidder, and so they passed all the checks. They're going to be able to fulfill the order, so that's where this grant is coming from.
And does this cover the full amount of the purchase?
Yes, yep, so what we have before you tonight is just that federal funding, the $453,000. Again, we'll be getting an $11,000, almost $12,000 grant at some point in the future from the state. They'll kick in a portion. And then we have a $15,000 local share.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Hannafin. Any questions or comments? Okay, I entertain, go ahead, Ms. Mayor.
Oh, that's right, yes. So that $15,833 local share will need to come from our enterprise fund balance, which will require a public hearing be set.
So that'd be a separate item, or is that contained within this order?
That would be separate item, correct?
I think because the match comes from the airport enterprise fund, it triggers the public hearing.
But to the
Ms. Olmixon, do you have any insight you could provide?
I don't have it in front of me, sorry, but I believe their request might have been in the cover letter.
I was just looking at it,
It's, oh, this local match will.
which will necessitate a public hearing.
Yeah.
So it could be in the same order.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Thank you, Ms. Olmixon. Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Chair, if it works for, the next regular meeting is the 16th. Are you hoping it would happen then?
Yeah, the contract's due back on June 26th, so that would be perfect.
I think, Mr. Chair, if it works for you, if we put it at 8:30 at that meeting, it would space it out from the other ones that are
6:16.
at 8:30.
Okay.
Madam President.
Was the last one 8:10?
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kent. Forgot you were down at the end. of the
Okay, I think we got that straight now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Okay, so with that, I'd suggest we set a public hearing. I'd entertain a motion to set a public hearing for June 16th at 8:30 PM.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Colleagues, we have two other orders to take up tonight. Order 176. It's a transfer request of $100,000 from the certified free cash to place into the city's, I'm sorry, I can't even read my own writing. Which fund was this?
The Centennial.
Oh, the Centennial Fund, that's right. So set a public hearing on June 16th at 8:10 PM. I'd entertain a motion to set that public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. That one is set. And order 177, this is a transfer request of $3 million from the certified free cash to be placed in the city's road and sidewalk fund. I'd entertain a motion, we set that public hearing for, looks like June 17th at 7:45 PM. Is that correct? It's 16th, okay. It's June 16th at 7:45 PM. All
So
those
moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, so we also, the only other item we have right now is the capital expenditure plan, which I think we'll leave in there on hold, and then the budget that was just referred to us, so we'll leave that on hold. And with that, I think that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Questions, comments? We good?
Move to adjourn. Finance and
I would just say, obviously, we have our first budget hearing on Thursday, so look forward to seeing everybody there. And we've got our budgets tonight, so look forward to some homework between now and then. But thank you, and I hear a motion to adjourn the Committee on Finance and Property.
Second.
Seconded, all in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Call the full council back to order. Thank you to our subcommittee chairs and subcommittees for that work during the subcommittee break. And now we're back to wrap things up with reports from committees. So Ms. Kent, we'll go to that.
Order number 173, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom refer the matter regarding a $19,950 state grant from Massachusetts Department of Transportation Aeronautics for the Beverly Regional Airport, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this request.
Are there questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Carries 9-0.
Order number 174, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom refer the matter regarding a $453,435 grant from the United States Department of Transportation, FAA, to purchase a snow removal and spreader vehicle for the Beverly Regional Airport, have considered the matter and beg leave to follow. Set a public hearing for June 16th at 8:30 p.m.
I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing as recommended by the subcommittee, June 16th, 8:30 p.m. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Crowley. All those in favor? Thank you, that carries 9-0.
Order number 176, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom referred the matter regarding a transfer request of $100,000 from the city's certified free cash balance to be placed into the city's centennial fund, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council set a public hearing for June 16th at 8:10.
I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing as recommended, June 16th at 8:10. All those in favor? That carries 9-0.
Order number 177, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom refer the matter regarding a transfer request of $3 million from the city's certified free cash balance placed into the city's road and sidewalk capital fund, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Set a public hearing for June 16th at 7:45 p.m.
I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing as recommended, June 16th, 7:45 p.m. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, that carries 9-0. Everyone got really quick at those. It's good.
Order number 165, the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding an appointment for Paul Skielling for Whitaker Way to serve on the Beverly Golf and Tennis Commission, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this appointment.
Are there questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye. Aye. That carries 9-0 with our thanks for his willingness to serve.
Order number 167, the Committee on Public Service, to whom refer the matter regarding a review appointment for Cynthia Montalbano, 22 Pond Street, to serve on the Council on Aging, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Are there questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Carries 9-0, again with our thanks for that willingness to serve.
Order number 14, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the, did we already? Never mind. Order number 116, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding Beverly Floodplain Overlay District zoning ordinance amendments, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Submit the accompanying amendment ordinance and recommend its adoption pending publication and final passage. Do I need to read this?
And this would be for a first vote this evening.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Kemp.
City of Beverly, legal notice of Order 116, City of Beverly notice is hereby given in accordance with MJL, Chapter 40A, Section 5 of the Beverly City Council and Beverly Planning Board hold a joint public meeting on Monday, May 5th at 7:45 p.m. in council chambers relative to the proposed adoption of a new floodplain overlay district ordinance replacing the existing Section 300-48 FOD floodplain overlay district for the purpose of compliance with federal emergency management requirements under the National Flood Insurance Program. A copy of the proposed ordinance is in the city clerk's office, and this was in the newspaper on April 21st and April 28th, and this is the first reading.
Thank you, Ms. Kent. And of course, we did have a joint public hearing with the planning board. We received a recommendation back from the planning board. Legal Affairs is now recommending the adoption of this proposed ordinance change. Our thanks to Sustainability Project Manager Ibrahim Lopez Hernandez, who I know is here with us this evening, for his work helping to bring this forward to us. So this is available for a first vote this evening. I would entertain a motion to approve. Is there any other discussion or conversation at this time? All those in favor? Aye. That carries 9-0. Thank you. That was very enthusiastic, Councilor Stein. I appreciated it. And so that will be available for a second vote at our next regular meeting, second and final vote.
Order number 166, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom referred the matter regarding a reappointment for Robert Bushbaum, 12 Bertram Street, to serve on the Conservation Commission, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Thank you. Carries 9-0. Our thanks to Mr. Buxbaum.
Did I say it wrong?
No, you got it.
Order number 164, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom referred the matter regarding a reappointment for Kevin Asolillo, 4 Sherwood Lane, to serve on the Beverly Housing Authority, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye. Aye. That carries 9-0.
Order number 168, Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding a reappointment for William Squibb for 509 Cabot Street to serve on the Conservation Commission, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye. Aye. That carries 9-0 as well.
Order number 180, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding a request to add an ordinance, Chapter 270-49, Section C, add a handicap space at 27 Giles Ave. And I believe that we have to wait to, we can do the first reading tonight?
Yes.
No, I didn't think so.
Councilor Rotundo, anything you would like to say about this one? We'll hear it at the next meeting, but I know this is your ordinance, proposed ordinance change.
I'm going to go in front of Parking and Traffic tomorrow. I know there's a process in place, but I wanted to at least get this started. Hopefully, possibly get it before the session ends, but if not, we'll take it up in September.
Okay, thank you, Councilor.
Order number 169, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom referred the matter regarding a proposed amendment to downtown parking ordinance regarding Wallace Street, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Set a public hearing, submit the accompanying amended ordinance and recommend its adoption pending publication and final passage. And tonight, we can do this for the first reading.
Yes.
Okay. Too many of these. Proposed amendment to Chapter 270-Vehicles and Traffic as follows. 270-45, 15-minute parking. No person shall park a vehicle for longer than 15 minutes at any time on the following streets or parts thereof where not otherwise prohibited. Wallace Street South in front of 6 Wallace Street between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. except on Sundays and holidays. Section 270-66, downtown parking, Beverly Parking District, on-street parking regulations devices. The following on-street locations will be regulated by parking regulations devices unless specifically regulated otherwise in the downtown Beverly Parking District on Wallace Street from Park Street to Rantoul Street. And this is the first reading.
Thank you, Ms. Ken. So this is the order that we heard earlier in the public hearing, so it is available for a first vote this evening. Is there a motion to approve? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 9-0, and we will be able to hear that again and take a final vote at our next regular meeting.
Order number 77A, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding Councilor Spang's proposed amendment to downtown parking ordinance, Chapter 270, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 66B1, downtown parking on Pleasant Street, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Set a public hearing on June 16th at 7:30 p.m.
I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing as recommended, June 16th, 7:30 p.m. All those in favor? Aye. That carries 9-0.
Order number 163, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding a proposed amendment to Chapter 69, Article 2, Section 69-9, City Personal Sick Leave, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Submit the accompanying amended ordinance and recommend its adoption pending publication and final passage. And we do the first reading tonight?
Yes.
I did not do the public hearing yet, so.
Councilor Houseman,
Language.
do you have a question? I've just noticed your subcommittee. 2 out of the 3 members of your subcommittee, all right, 3 out of the 3 members of the subcommittee have a thought.
We voted this out for discussion.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It doesn't say that, but that's, yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, the motion to approve was to refer to the full council, so we have full council discussion.
For discussion,
on the matter.
okay.
That's fine.
All right, so in order to have some discussion on this, I'll take a motion in a second.
To read it?
Thank you. I'll take some discussion. Ms. Oldmixon, are you getting up so that you can? No, okay. All right, so counselors, is there further conversation on this? This is the proposed ordinance on sick buyback. Counselor Feldman, I saw your hand first, but okay. Counselor Sweeney then.
You can go first. Well, lay off, or you want me to go? Okay.
All right,
All right, I guess I'll lay it off. Thank you, Madam President. I know we discussed the proposal in the 6 PM Legal Affairs Committee of the whole meeting, so I'm not going to restate everything, but just, I will note, I do have concerns at a higher level with the general concept of a sick leave buyback, given that I view sick leave as a necessary benefit, but one that we should be looking at as being used when necessary and not something to be monetized if not used. But that being said, I understand the rationale that the mayor had alluded to in the previous meeting at 6 PM about the benefit of the proposal being that it would hopefully reduce absenteeism, and the proposal being submitted because of inequity between the current language and its applicability to non-department head, non-union, non-department heads, and then most of the unions having this language in their collective bargaining agreements. However, I do have concerns, with all that stated, that we would be applying a benefit retroactively to employees that took positions with kind of an understanding of the full suite of benefits that would be available. And so I don't think this is the best path forward, as I mentioned, but if the council decides it's the best path forward, I would have some concerns about when the applicable date would be for the department heads. And also, I do think that there should be more research into what our peer communities are doing. And that's something that I would have hoped the mayor's office and members of his team would have undertaken to see where this benefit is relative to peer communities, to determine whether or not we are out above our peer communities and the generosity of the benefit. And I know Mr. Perry did kind of a cursory analysis, and I know in the communities that I've worked in, this is a more generous benefit than is offered, and it seems like that's Mr. Perry's conclusion as well. So with all of this in mind, I do understand and agree with the point being identified that as it's laid out currently, it is unfair, so to speak, that the benefit only applies to all employees except for one small subset in department heads. But that being said, given that I have concerns about the merit of the policy in general and concerns about the amount of research that went into bringing this proposal before us, and maybe that we should be considering other parameters such as when the effective date would be, how much sick leave can be accumulated and how much can be bought back, whether we should institute a length of service minimum requirement, which I know some communities do, whether it be 10 years or 25 years or somewhere in that ballpark. I just think there's enough that we need to continue to debate before taking action that I would say, in light of that, even with the inequity identified, I think we'd be better off trying to dive into this proposal in greater depth rather than just approving it as submitted currently. So I said I was going to be short. I wasn't that short. Those are my thoughts on the proposal. Thanks, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Other discussion from counselors? Counselor Bowen.
Thank you. And I think we've all struggled with this one a bit because it does sort of mix and match a couple of different pieces. So I think there's one element which is just aligning the current ordinance with the collective bargaining agreements that are in play right now and contracts with non-union employees on the cap of days. So reducing that from 200 to 150, it sounds like would just bring the ordinance in line with the reality of current benefits. And so I have no problem with that. I know we do periodically just clean up things in the ordinances that have gotten out of alignment. The question, I share the question about if we're making this whole section apply to a group of people that currently are excluded from that benefit, how that is timed, I do think matters. And don't feel like we've gotten a clear picture on sort of what the rationale for making it immediately applicable now at this stage is. So I think could benefit from some further discussion on that. Though I think one of the challenges is the wording in the current ordinance has been also interpreted differently, sort of who is a department head and who is not. So, leaving it here where it's open to interpretation is somewhat of a risk as well. I think striking that clause entirely in the meantime and going back to the drawing board on the policy is an option, but that is an option that, directly impacts one particular set of employees employed in certain positions in a certain time period and without a clear process for why that change now, other than noticing at some point that it doesn't feel aligned, to me isn't a good enough reason to make that change. So, would be certainly open to that first cap changing to align with what we currently have, and don't feel like the second change is quite ready tonight either.
Thank you, Counselor. Other comments from counselors or questions? Counselor Houseman.
Yeah, as we've all at one point or another indicated that we sort of struggle with this, I think Counselor Bode put it reasonably well. There's a lot of different pieces that sort of don't align well, but have conflicting reasons for why they are good or bad in terms of voting in favor of this. I do think it's interesting that there are some outstanding questions and some outstanding aspects to this proposal that could potentially be amended if there was greater, excuse me, a greater examination around something like vesting times. That's has not really been addressed, and yet we're trying to do this now. The effective date, I guess I feel less strongly about. So I think on balance, where I'm at is I would vote in favor of this, but I certainly understand colleagues who feel like they don't feel like we're quite there yet in terms of some of the aspects of sort of the bigger picture around what what we agree to if we voted in favor. So.
Thank you, Counselor. Other comments from counselors? Well, I'm hearing sort of two threads. I'm hearing a thread where counselors, I don't want to put words in your mouth, I'm hearing threads with counselors expressing that there's an openness to see what the will of the council might be, and some different observations about things, concerns that people may have, amendments that people may want to suggest. So to my mind, we have two courses of action. We could take a first vote on this to see where we land as a council, or we could delay further action on it. Councillor St. Hilaire. Please, Councillor St. Hilaire.
So, I am also opposed to this. Similar to other comments I've heard, I view the sick time as a way to deal with illness and health issues that arise through the course of your employment, not as a retirement bonus to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. And so I really don't support expanding that benefit beyond anywhere where it currently exists, and prefer to see attempts to bring that more into alignment with other private sector and other organizations, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Mr. Perry, Mr. Mayor, you're still with us. I know you had a chance to speak in the earlier subcommittee meeting. I don't know if either one of you wanted to make a comment at this time on this particular order. You don't have to.
Yeah, I really don't want to. This is a tough one. I agree with all of you. This was, even when I wrote my opinions and everything, I wrestled with it quite a bit. Everything I've heard tonight has validity. And I guess all I can say to you is, just speaking as your budget management analyst, kind of wavering towards policy a little bit, but I did recommend to you to adopt the mayor's proposal, and what really swayed me for the most is just my own viewpoint was the fairness and equity. Doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean I'm wrong. I spent quite a bit of time with David Jenkins, the attorney at KP Law. You know, I had an opportunity to talk to him for almost an hour and a half last week, and we talked about labor law and things of that nature, and that's what swayed me towards it. But everything you've all raised here has validity too, and I don't envy the 9 of you to make this decision, but bottom line to it, I just thought the fairness and equity outweighed the other aspects of it, and that's kind of how I came down on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Councilor Husband?
Yeah, I have a question for Budget Analyst Perry.
You making me a counselor?
I was just going to say,
Did I get a promotion?
I too.
Yeah, it's a residency.
My question has to do with vesting periods of time. Where the concept of sick leave buyback has been implemented, and it's been implemented, generally speaking, as my understanding, in the public sector quite broadly. It seems to me that to do it properly, you would have certain parameters. So this proposal suggests a certain limitation of number of days. That certainly makes sense. A number of us, including me, don't think it makes sense to have it as high, but it's already there across the board, pretty much everywhere else except here. But vesting, it seems like such a basic component of what this kind of a proposal should have. It hadn't really registered with me until we had all our discussions this evening. Do most, in your experience, you have a lot of experience with municipalities, and you've done some research on this, do most of these kinds of provisions have a minimum vesting requirement?
Well, I haven't seen, I've seen a few, yes. I haven't seen a lot of the, when you say vesting, in other words, employed by, let's say, by the city of Beverly for X amount of years, is that true?
Yeah, minimum time served.
Minimum terms, yeah, I've seen a few,
Qualified.
not seen a lot. I have a lot of experience from the state level. What I can tell you at the state level was if you became, and that's another vesting conversation, if you have vested rights to receive a pension, it's 10 years service and age 55 or older. And what, at the state level, they don't cap the sick leave. You can accumulate quite a few if you have 30, 40-year career, but they grant 20% buyback. So that's an example of, the state is less generous than here in Beverly. But in terms of the vested things, I've seen a couple of them. In other words, you have to serve X amount of years. There's validity to that too. I don't know if there's any right or wrong answer to any of this. Okay. The bottom line to it is yes, but not. I haven't seen too much in the vested stuff though. I one or two. That's about all I've seen.
If I may follow. Yes. So the state says how many years and what age?
So, it's just basically retired. There's no vested time with the state.
Okay.
So if you retire, you have to have at least 10 years service.
Yeah.
This is retirement now.
Yeah.
And if you retire with 10 years service, then you are given, if you retire from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are given 20% of your accumulated sick time.
And you made reference to an age also.
In order to receive a this is
But
not
again,
this is not
apples and oranges,
disability now.
that's pension, yeah.
I'm talking strictly pensions. I'm talking, traditional pension in Group 1, I think it is 10 years service and age 55. And this doesn't discuss disability pensions.
Okay, so, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Spang, I know you had your hand up. I know the mayor is moving to the podium. Did you have a question for Mr. Perry? Do you mind if we have the mayor and then we'll go to you? Okay. Mr. Mayor, did you want to, I know you were starting to move that direction. And then we'll go to Counselor Spang afterwards.
Sure, thanks, everybody. So I guess a couple thoughts. And I appreciate the thinking that's going into the conversation, for sure. The reason that I brought this forward is that municipal employees of the city of Beverly all have the ability at retirement, if they retire from the city of Beverly, to buy sick time unused up to 50% of 150 days. So there's a cap on what they can accumulate. In the ordinance, you see 200, but in all the collective bargaining agreements, it's 150. So one of the proposals you see before you is to drop that ordinance 200 down to 150, because the collective bargaining agreements control anyway. And the proposal is to say we have these 9 individuals who are direct report department heads, who are not eligible. So under the rules of engagement for Beverly municipal employees, right, it's not this in terms of how I brought this forward, it's not a question of what happens in other places. It's within this workplace. All the employees, but for these 9, can do this at retirement if they retire from their job with the city of Beverly. So it's been, some of our conversations in subcommittee and one-to-one have been about the fact that these department heads didn't expect this kind of a benefit at retirement when they took their jobs, and that's true. Every single union employee of a bargaining unit working within the municipal government of Beverly came to their job expecting what they had for benefits at that time. But with each successive bargaining cycle, their unions have negotiated, at times, new benefits, increased value of benefits. And those employees have been able to now receive those benefits. It hasn't gone only to employees that weren't, that came into our employment after that new contract was agreed. So my point here is, yes, these department heads did not expect these benefits when they came to work here, nor did our unionized employees expect certain benefits that they now receive based on successive bargaining cycles and new contracts. So, this is all hard to make apples to apples, right? But at least that's a thought that I want to share with you as you're going through that process. I've heard a couple of you say, as a policy, you could get behind the idea that these 9 employees should not be treated differently from all the other employees, but you have a question as to when it should apply. And I go back to that point I just made. I'm not sure that that I would have brought this forward just with the thought that it be prospective, that nobody who currently fills any of those 9 positions would ever be eligible, because that's what I heard suggested once or twice. So I don't know if that's helpful. I mean, we all have to think through things our own ways, and, we all are here because we've been elected to represent our community. So, some of these votes are easy, some of them end up, all kinds of torturous. So I don't know if that's helpful. I'm happy to try to answer a question or, kind of dig more deeply into one of those points, but I just appreciate your consideration. I feel that I owe it to these 9 department heads, direct report department heads, to be here in front of you tonight. So, thanks.
Thank you. Counselor Spang, and then I saw Counselor Sweeney and Counselor Rotundo. Counselor Spang.
I just wanted to share some of my thinking on it. I appreciated the memos, both from the outside attorney and from Mr. Perry. And I've been trying to think about equity and fairness, and also that while there are 10 direct report department heads that this would impact, 2 of the 10 have already negotiated for this benefit in their, memorialized in their contract. So we're really talking about 8 department heads who are not eligible for this retirement buyback benefit. And to me, I would want to see a rationale for why those 8 people are being singled out from not being eligible for that. And that's where I think people have been trying to figure out why that happened back in the late 80s, and there's not a good record for it. So that's where my struggle is right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Sweeney, and then Counselor Rotundo will go for you.
Thank you, Madam President. And both to that point that Councilor Spang just made and to the point that the mayor highlighted about the inequity, I certainly agree, both one, with the need to try to figure out what the original rationale was, but 2, acknowledge the unfairness, and, I'm not going to repeat what I said earlier. Putting aside any concerns that I have with the policy itself and focusing on kind of the points the mayor made about the unions and the collective bargained agreements, I know that, in all the union negotiations that I've been a part of, the unions bring forward proposals for any number of reasons, but oftentimes they're looking at peer communities to try to stay with the market, which is a city we should try to do. And so that would then bring forward the question about this proposal, and there's 2 pieces of this that I'm thinking about. One, the policy piece that I already discussed, but looking at then how we compare to peer communities, and to the point that you made, Mayor, I don't know that we've done the work here to fully analyze where we stand with peer communities. And so if we're bringing a similar logic and way of thinking to how we should be approaching our collective bargaining process with unions, it would be to try to make sure that we are paying fair wages and fair benefits based on what peer communities are offering. And here, I don't know that it doesn't seem like we've done the analysis to see whether this is a benefit that is in line with peer communities. And if it's not, then we should be further discussing, which was not included in the rationale in putting this proposal forward, why the city council should be voting in favor to add a financial liability in order, presumably, to make the city of Beverly a more attractive employer for prospective applicants to any one of these department head positions. And so I'd be willing to engage in that discussion if the council determines that this is a worthwhile policy. And I think, 1, we need to make that first determination, and then two would be a more thorough discussion about where we stack up with peer communities, which I don't think we have any of that information to make this decision tonight. And so with that, the question I want to pose to you, Mayor, is if this proposal as you've presented it is voted down, would you plan on doing a more thorough analysis of benefits of what our peer communities are offering for sick leave buyback for non-union employees, and maybe submitting a revised proposal for the council to dive into in a little more detail?
Madam President?
Yes,
Thanks.
please.
So, Counselor, I did not need that particular evaluation. I mean, when I looked at this, I was looking at, it wasn't really a question of competitiveness with other communities in my mind. It was a question of, we have this many employees, and they all are able to take advantage of this at retirement if they retire from their employ here at the city. And this small number of department heads are not able to take advantage of that same benefit. So if you and some to all of your colleagues want to look at that, if you want to look at it from that perspective, if that helps you to, if you need that, I mean, I would take it back and see who can get that information for us. Right now, it's been a little difficult because every direct report department head is conflicted out of doing any work on this. Some of the natural places I would go to get this information. So, as I said, I wasn't concerned or interested in that particular evaluation, but if you folks, if you want to hold this or however you act tonight and ask me to go back and get that information, I certainly can do it.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor, and I would say personally, when we take on any sort of significant increased financial liability, even if it's hypothetical in the future, I do think we should be doing that level of due diligence before voting to commit the city to an additional benefit. And so.
I think those are two separate things. You're talking about a level of financial exposure over time potentially, and you're looking at, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, and so I'll stop.
No, please continue, Mayor.
If you folks want that information, just ask me and I'll get it.
Okay, I would appreciate that, and I do think that's worthwhile information to evaluate in the context of the larger proposal.
Thank you, Counselor. I think Counselor Rotundo and then Counselor St. Hilaire, Counselor Bowen.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few thoughts for me, and I think it's transpired after this, out of the 6 PM subcommittee meeting. We're talking about equity, we're talking about parameters, and I think there was a valid point that Councilor Sweeney brought up in regards to if a department head comes in, and we know that they change over often, but they've been at another community, and they come in here and they work for several years, and then they're, what's the eligibility parameter that we would put in place? And, we talked about collective bargaining, that's the negotiating piece, and this is sort of what we as a council is doing. We're doing the collective bargaining piece with our mayor to say is what's the right fit that we're creating an ordinance. And then on the other part of financial pieces, we're comparing a department head who's making $155,000, $160,000, as opposed to a city employee who's maybe making $60,000 or $70,000. The per day is much different in value. So it's harder to say as well that, it's not equitable. Well, no, you're right, the pay's not equitable either. It's a big disparity. It's like giving a department head a 3% raise on a $100,000 salary, for instance, to make it easy numbers, and a city employee who's making $50,000 at 3%. It's just different. So there is no comparable. We do need some sort of parameter for us to at least be able to say, is it 10 years of service? Look at the state changed the retirement system from 10 years vested to 15 years vested. We've changed it for financial purposes. Is there something here that we need to see what's the right number? And I don't know what the right number is. I mean, that's, I think, the things that we don't have in front of us. That's, at least for me, making it harder to really come to the decision. I said it in the committee room, I'll say it here, is the policy itself should be created, but again, when does that start? And I understand where the mayor's saying is that through collective bargaining, things change. You're right, and this is what we're sort of doing, is discussing that piece is, if we're changing a policy or an ordinance in this case, well, what's the right fit for it? And it doesn't have to be necessarily what other communities are doing. It's what Beverly does, but the other communities help us to give a better guideline.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor St. Hilaire, please.
Counselor Rotundo stole much of my thunder, but I was going to talk also about the equity. And, I think it's a false idea that union collective bargaining team member or employees should be treated the same as a management, executive who reports directly to the mayor. As Councilor Rotundo hinted, that they're much different. They serve at will, and they are compensated for that. I think every year we allocate funding for increases for these folks, and their salaries increase every year based on that. So I agree. They're not expected to be the same. I oppose this expansion of this benefit idea, and we'll vote no.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Bowen.
Thank you, and I think that's all really helpful. I agree that further information would be helpful on this change and not necessarily comparing it to what other employees in different roles have, in part because this system has been in place since 1988, and so it really is at this point a decision about expanding a benefit rather than removing it from a small group of people. That decision was made at one time. So I guess I just have a question. If there is, so if we were to expand the benefit even in the interim while looking at further options around sort of how department heads are defined and compensated, I wonder about taking on that additional liability we've talked about, but are we at risk of already having a liability that folks will challenge the fairness of our current, the policy that's been in place since 1988, and are we particularly worried about that at this point? Or, it seems like there's no risk to leaving the ordinance as it is and studying further unless I'm missing a risk that just hasn't been shared with us.
Thank you, Counselor. I'm not sure if there's someone in the room tonight who can address that specific question. It sounds like the question is there a risk to leaving the ordinance unchanged while we consider further? Am I capturing your question accurately?
I'm not an attorney. I think, I wish we had asked that question when we had the attorney on the phone here today. That's something we could follow up on. I don't think it's we really have no,
Great.
city solicitor can't opine, the staff can't opine, and we don't have Mr. Jenkins in front of us. With your permission, I could reach out and try to find at least the answer to that question, but I'm not going to be able to give you anything tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. And I think given, I tend to be in agreement with that. I think given that, and that we've heard a few other areas where counselors are asking for additional information, I just heard the mayor offer to come back with some of that information. It seems to me that at this juncture, keeping this before the full council, Legal Affairs has sent it out for this discussion, maintaining it as unfinished business from a previous meeting so it can have further discussion, seems to me to be the most prudent course of action, in that I'm hearing counselors say, I would like to have more information before I make my decision. And I also did hear Counselor Spang also note that it may not be possible to find, but I did hear Counselor Spang identify other information that would be helpful if it could be found, is why were these initially excluded in the 80s. So I think we've had good conversation here now. It seems to me there are a number of items that we've now committed to getting more information in different ways and bringing it back. And so I'm going to suggest that we pause this here, hold this on the table, pick it up at our next meeting. And I believe that was our last item to come out of, okay. So with that, then, that brings us to the end of this meeting's agenda. I do want to say a thank you again to all of the city staff that were here with us. Mr. Mayor, thank you to you for being here, your budget presentation. Mr. Ailes also was here with us, obviously getting our budgets together. We did hear that the digital budget, Councilor St. Hilaire asked, the digital budget will be available to the public starting tomorrow. And we'll be digging into the budget starting on Thursday. And so we'll look forward to those conversations. Thank you to Mr. Perry for being here with us as well. Thank you to all of our city staff who are still here with us. And another word of congratulations to those 5 Eagle Scouts. I know that seems like we did that a while ago, but thinking back to the beginning of our time together, we did also have that celebration, 5 Eagle Scouts. What an accomplishment for our community and for their families and for those scouts. So what a great thing to have started off with. Are there any reminders, or Councilor Spang?
There's going to be a ceremony that I believe everybody was invited to at Gillis Park on Saturday, June 14th at 11 o'clock to rededicate the park and remember the veterans. It's in honor of.
Thank you very much, Councilor. Are there other announcements or reminders from councilors? Councilor Bone.
Thank you. Just wanted to share, because it happened in between our last meeting and this meeting, I was sworn in as our state representative and wanted to clarify that it is possible to fill both roles and that it's my intention not to run for re-election to the city council and to just serve until the next election when, by our charter, a vacancy would be filled by the next election. So for anyone who was wondering why I was still in this seat tonight, wanted to just say that out loud, and that should any conflicts of interest arise, we'll tackle those as they come up. They're a limited scope. And so just wanted to share that.
Thank you very much, Councilor, and congratulations as well on your having been sworn in. I also just wanted to mention that this Thursday at 5 p.m. at City Hall, there is the city's Pride celebration. The Progress flag raising is happening, and so that's, of course, open to everyone. And so that's just another reminder for those who may be following along to come and join in that celebration if you're so inclined. Are there any other announcements? Well, thank you to Kim in the BevCam booth. Thanks for sticking with us the whole time. Thanks to everyone who's watching us on BevCam, following along. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor? That carries 9-0. Thanks. Good night, everyone. We're adjourned.